and welcome to the Great British Mickey Waffle. We're a positive band of British voices united in sharing our love of all things Disney. So we're now in April, and there's a lot of things happening in Disney this month. And we also have 3 members of the team over in Walt Disney World as well. So we'll have the return of Happy Ever After and Epcot Forever, and not forgetting the long-awaited opening of Tron at the Magic Kingdom. I think it's been years since that first got announced. So glad that it's opening. So also coming up this month, we have 4 incredible Wafflers Wednesday shows, including a recap of Disneyland Paris's 30th birthday celebrations and the 25th birthday of Disney's Animal Kingdom. So let's just hope they don't turn the Tree of Life into a birthday cake. So talking of the Tree of Life, Disney have announced some de-imagineering across Walt Disney World, which includes the removal of the animals from the tree, revealing it just as an oil rig. And Tower of Terror is going to receive a spring clean, removing all the cobwebs, polishing the pipework. To be honest, I think that work is long overdue.
Yeah,
Definitely.
do the Hoover as well. On the Hoover round joint.
Oh yeah.
Will it be Tower of Terror sponsored by Dyson?
There's a thought.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a new partnership. So
Yeah.
today sees the very end of the 50th celebrations at Walt Disney World, and our focus is now on Disney 100, which is in full swing over at Disneyland and will be coming to Epcot later this year. But joining me today, we have Becca.
Hello.
We have John.
Hi, Ben.
We have Claire.
Hi, Ben.
We have Robin.
Hi.
No Simon tonight.
Well, he's just come back from Florida. I think he's feeling a bit jet lagged.
A little bit of jet lag. It happens. It doesn't matter how many times you go, jet lag always hits, especially when you come back. So, and we have Peter and Jill. Hi guys.
Hey,
okay?
okay. Yeah, you okay?
Yeah, very, very well. Can't believe we are in April already.
Oh, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, of all the things that I've mentioned in the past sort of couple of minutes, what are you most looking forward to?
Well, I'm hoping the spring clean of Tower of Terror will make it less creepy.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
Well, if this is just a couple of things Disney have announced, I wonder what else they could announce.
I know.
Yeah,
Who would know? Who would know?
that is true. So, I'm just excited to see Disney 100. There's been so much stuff of the 50th now ending. That means Harmonious is gone.
Sad times.
Hooray!
Yeah, I can't decide whether I'm happy about it or not, to be fair.
Well, I think there was one funny thing that I've actually found out though, because we're talking about the 50th, we're talking about the 100th, and actually, for the past couple of weeks, what we've been able to see is at Epcot they've been heavily reducing the price of the merch from Epcot's 40th. So, if you just bide your time and you're missing out on any of these 50th celebration merchandise or even the 100th, just give it a little bit of time. Your time will come, and while you're at it, fill your case full of all the Epcot stuff that is. I think it's about 30 to 40% off. So lots of
how much of it's in the outlet.
I know. That'd be even
Next
cheaper.
year in the outlet, there's going to be so many Figment popcorn buckets.
Yeah.
So from the 50th, the 100th, there's so much going on.
And what do we think? Are they going to make more of the 100th than they did of the 50th? I mean,
I think so.
Not
They
much,
couldn't make any less.
I think it's off to a good start with Happily Ever After, Epcot Forever, and Tron.
Yeah, I think so.
And we know that Epcot's going to have the new fireworks show later this year, so Epcot Forever is only a stopgap for 6 months.
Again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Feels like they could almost have just kept Harmonious a bit longer.
No.
I think it's because they probably need to
clear the way, clear the decks.
clear the way. They need to clear the lake for whatever.
I think that lake probably needs dredging and everything. With all the rubbish that's been on it. So
sanitize it.
Yeah. I think so.
Pouring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that all the stuff everyone's been throwing at the barges, hoping it
I
gets
probably think it would be. Yeah.
Pour in some Milton and clean the lake. That's what you need. Disinfect it. Get rid of all traces of Harmonious.
But yeah,
Oh, dear.
talking of Disney 100, on our first Lamont show, I started our countdown to our 100th episode in our journey to a century. So each month we'll take a look back at each decade of the Walt Disney Company. And this time it's Gill to guide us through 1933 to 1943.
In 1933, the Disney studio was turning out a steady stream of short cartoons, notably The Three Little Pigs, which featured a catchy song which has since been covered by everyone from Barbra Streisand to LL Cool J. Donald Duck made his screen debut in 1934, but something even bigger than the #1 duck began its life that year. Walt laid out plans for a full-length cartoon film, the first ever made in the US. He first revealed his plans to his key animators one evening when he took them out to dinner, then to the studio's sound stage, where he told the entire story, acting out every part. It was, of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Hollywood was skeptical, thinking that animation was only suited to short films, and the long and arduous production journey even saw Walt having to mortgage his house to finance the project. In 1937, Snow White finally premiered at the Cathay Circle Theatre to a standing ovation. On its general release in 1938, audiences were rapturous, and the quality of the animation was recognised in 1939, when Walt was presented with a special Oscar, accompanied by 7 miniature ones, to celebrate the studio's achievement. Meanwhile, story work began in 1937 for Bambi, and in 1938 for Pinocchio. But in the end, the story of the little wooden boy was to be Disney's second full-length release, in February 1940. The story was at times dark and disturbing, but was enlivened by the cheery presence of Jiminy Cricket. It also featured some classic songs, including When You Wish Upon a Star, which has since become something of an anthem for the studios and parks. 1940 was a significant year for Donald, as Daisy Duck made her debut. And towards the end of the year, another of the studio's great experiments was released. The film originally entitled The Concert Feature, which fortunately ended up being called Fantasia. Elements of this had been planned over the last 4 years, beginning with the classic Sorcerer's Apprentice segment, which is probably the most beloved part of the film. Other familiar pieces include the Nutcracker Suite, which features some animation which today we might expect to be CGI, such is its sharpness and clarity. Though the film was not particularly well received at the time, it has gone on to become a cult classic. 1941 saw turbulent times. Not only was the Second World War raging, but within the studio there was 5 months of strike action by the animators. The next release, The Reluctant Dragon, was really a collection of live-action and animated shorts, and it wasn't until October that the studio released Dumbo. At just over an hour's running time, it is one of Disney's shortest features, but was a major success. Bambi finally stepped onto the ice and into cinemas in 1942, and while not a major financial success, it laid the ground for much of the animator's future work, not to mention traumatizing whole generations with the film's ending. A happier outing was Disney's salute to Latin America, Saludos Amigos. A package film, it consisted of shorts starring Donald riding a llama, a little plane called Pedro, Goofy as an Argentinian gaucho, and finally the first appearance of Jose Carioca, the sophisticated parrot who introduces Donald to the carnival atmosphere of Rio, where the film premiered. Its US premiere was not until the following year. The studios also did their bit for the wartime effort, producing shorts such as Donald's Decision, promoting war bonds, Donald Gets Drafted, and Food Will Win the War. This continued into 1943 with Victory Through Air Power, as well as military training films. On a lighter note, the mischievous Chip and Dale first appeared in that year too, and are still delighting audiences. Not bad for a couple of 80-year-olds. Looking back over the studio's second decade, it's difficult to understand the impact of the huge cultural shift from short cartoons to full-length animated films. Though there were obstacles of many kinds, the technical and artistic developments achieved during these years cemented Disney's place in animation history and in the imaginations of generations to come.
Gill, what a 10 years that was, though. What a 10 years. Absolutely incredible when you think of how those films have basically had a lifetime of complete, not just memory, but how much they've impacted on everybody in starting off either as a child and watching the films and then becoming a real Disney fan through the films, or just the fact that you can still watch them today and still see something completely different in each of them. You know, it's absolutely amazing to think, you know, to think that we actually were edging towards the Second World War, and out of the other side of like a Wall Street crash, First World War, and you think, you know, these were really tough times, and yet Walt was in a position where he was going through that the whole creativity part of his filmmaking life. It's amazing. I think if we put it on a time scale, when we look back at the end of this series, I would say that those 10 years are perhaps the ones that really stand out as the ones that he's, you know, as the ones that really you see how it made everything that came after. Absolutely incredible.
It was the foundation for everything. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I mean,
and
can you imagine
when you think of it, of all of the things that if you talk to anyone that talks about the beginnings of Disney, everyone's first thought is Snow White.
Yeah.
Snow White was the first VHS I got.
It starts with the class. It's the classics.
Yeah.
It's
the one that started it all.
Yeah. Paved the way for all the others that came after.
And can you imagine if they'd listened to the critics and they'd said, "Yeah, they're right. It's silly. Let's not bother trying to do a full-length film."
Yeah. I don't think that was ever going to happen with Walt Disney. Was it?
No.
He got an idea and he just went with it.
Thank goodness he did. Yeah.
Perseverance.
I think you still need to see those films in the cinema.
Yeah.
They're not as they're great on the small screen, but I think when they get released back in cinemas again, I think you need to. And that's basically, I'm so old now that's basically how I saw them. In the cinema.
Every 7 years.
This was your era, Peter.
Yes. Well, maybe not quite then. No, maybe not quite then. But
you let yourself in for that one.
I did. But yes, when I was a boy in the 70s.
Careful where you're going now, Peter.
And I was a boy in the 70s. And also, there weren't that many family-friendly films in the 70s. So having a decent Disney being re-released, having those early Snow Whites, Bambis being re-released, it was somewhere that the kids could go to the cinema.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
It was.
You will see that again with a lot of the classics being re-released, especially when they get to 100 years. Or are we past that point of them being released in the cinema and on Disney Plus for anyone to access?
I think that's the thing, Ben, isn't it? Because actually, given the current cost to go into the cinema, I think people are quite happy to sit at home and just, you know, they paid the subscription for Disney Plus. I think you're right, Peter. I actually think that these films, the bigger the screen that you actually are able to watch them, you start to pick out some of the absolutely incredible design features of how they were put together, and just marvel in the fact that, you know, I think Gill said it. You would think it was computer generated, but it was all hand drawn and hand colored. It was just you know how they ever managed to get a feature length cartoon to screen in those days is amazing.
It's that particular bit of Nutcracker Suite where the snowflakes come past that always gets me, because they
have a
look,
shimmer,
they
have
look,
a shine.
they look as if they were computer generated, and you think they can't be. It's 1940. But
absolutely magnificent,
they look beautiful.
And it's always that moment, John, as we said in previous shows before, when you go into one man's dream at Hollywood Studios, when you just see the year by year, and as we're going through doing this journey to century, it's just so much of things like the multiplaned camera, just so much of you see of how animation and how later on things will change for Disney Company. And I'm looking forward to see what we cover over the next few months.
How many panes did they break of that multiplane camera? It's glass.
Yeah.
You know.
You are listening to the Great British Mickey Waffle. We are a positive band of British voices, united in all things Disney. If you'd like to know more about us, head over to our website, gbmickeywaffle.com. It's the one place you can find everything we do, from podcasts, live shows, and so much more. Now back to the show.
For repeat visitors to Walt Disney World, it can be easy to follow the same routine in visiting the parks. But today we'd like to talk about those things that just change your holiday or vacation slightly different, and those VIP tours, which are truly great for a magical experience. So Disney offer a wide range of options, from private tours of the parks to behind the scenes experiences that you can't get anywhere else. We've looked at quite a few. We've not done any ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to tonight, talking to everyone here and seeing what ones you've done, what ones you wouldn't do. And also, there's a story that I know between a couple of wafflers that met previously on one of these tours.
And didn't even know it.
Yeah.
It's amazing what kind of people you'll meet on them.
I know, they're proper dodgy.
Speak about yourself.
I think, shall we start
Claire,
there?
you know?
I
Go on.
I think we should.
I know, this is like,
I
this is the weirdest story ever, but it's epic.
Yeah, it is. It is quite an incredible thing of when you realise, well, what was it? Was it 9 or 10 years later, and we were doing a live show, and I found a photograph, and Claire said, "Whose picture's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's mine, because it's got our Joe in it." And actually, my kids are right beside Morgan.
That's the picture.
Who has Morgan's got his mum behind him. And it's just like,
there's my flip-flops you can see with the camera around my neck.
One of those, just one of those moments that you just never ever thought.
Morgan with his
just incredible
Italy Mickey ears on, sat there next to Josh. And I mean, for us to discover that in the middle of a live show was the most bizarre moment, wasn't it? And it was like, hang on a minute, is that your photo? That's my photo. Whose photo is that? And then, do you know, it all came flooding back, because I remember Josh and Joe on the tour. And I remember them being there. And I guess it must be 10 years ago.
Well,
if not a bit more
now, I think,
because Millie wasn't there. Because Millie wasn't there, and she's 10. So I guess that, you know, and I remember that day. So the tour was the Family Magic Tour, which they haven't restarted again yet. I'm hoping they do. And it was great, because it was a tour that was it was about 2.5 hours long, John.
It was something like that. It was nice, because actually the cast member who led it was absolutely superb. And he was great for the adults. He was, you know, he did his bit for the adults, but with the kids who were there, he had them absolutely in the palm of his hand, and they were doing the most mad things all the way around Magic Kingdom, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
So the premise of the tour was that the children, so there's probably 6 or 7 kids on this tour, of which we had 3 of them. The others were American, they weren't British, and they had clues that they had a scroll, and they had clues they had to follow, which led them to something at the end. And it was all the way around the Magic Kingdom. They had to go and find things in certain areas and look for clues and solve problems and puzzles, and each time they had to do something as well. So it was extremely interactive. It was a really hot day as well, I remember. And they had all of us doing stupid things up and down curbs in the hub and all sorts of stuff. And the parents all stood there at the back going, "Yeah, you carry on." No, everyone joins in. It's like,
I remember being. I think we were in there. We were walking past Funny Eclipse, weren't we? In Cosmic Rays, and it was just like, "Oh, everyone, get down!" And he has us all sort of really sneaking down. So we're
creeping along underneath it.
But that's just such a magical memory of what, and that's really what the tours are about. It's about changing your perception of any of the parks, and actually adding something to your day that just makes a memory that lasts forever. And then to find that you were on the same tour as a fellow waffler years later was just like, it just adds to it.
I remember that tour so well. And at the end, we went to, you end up in the little courtyard, which is just inside the queue line for Pirates of the Caribbean. So it was fenced off when I was there in December. I think they were doing a bit of refurb. There's just a tiny little courtyard garden as you go into what's now the lightly named queue for Pirates of the Caribbean. It's to the right of that, behind some fencing, and the children got a meet and greet with Peter Pan at the end, and it was very cool.
Hang on, just the children?
Because they became Lost Boys or girls, and Peter Pan had them all crowing, and it was really brilliant.
Peter Pan he started off on the roof. So the cast member who had done the guide, had done the tour, led us to here, and then you just heard this call from the roof, and everyone's just kind of looking. It was
from the rooftop, brilliant. And then he came down.
It was absolutely
so cool.
Superb. No, it's just it sort of makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up just talking about it, because it was memorable, and I just think,
I know, And then to discover all these years later, actually, we did it together was just bizarre. It's like one of those weird moments, but it just makes it even more special, actually.
No, it does. It was brilliant.
It's lovely.
Do you think they'll bring that one back?
I hope so, because actually I think kids really because what we're going to talk about, a lot of these tours, they are for 16 and over. For tours where you go backstage, as opposed to an area. So we're going to talk about some of the Animal Kingdom tours where you go backstage, but they're areas that aren't necessarily away from theming. Some of the other tours, like Keys to the Kingdom, we'll talk about, they are for 16 and overs, because obviously there are certain areas of the parks that only adults are allowed to see. And so this was a tour specifically focused on the children, which was so cool. Because as adult, I felt I was there along for the journey, but the tour was for Morgan. It wasn't for us. So it was. I think that if they would be silly not to bring it back, because it was such a different type of approach.
I think as well, Claire. I think this probably it
wasn't expensive.
No, it wasn't. Hence the reason we did it as a family.
Probably why you were on it, John.
How long was the tour? How long was the tour?
A good 2.5 hours. And it was...
Oh, okay, that's not too bad, because I know some of them can be quite lengthy.
But it was set up 5 hours, primarily for children. And the one thing that I think is where they held the attention of the adults was it started to go into some of the little details of the park, which I know we've spoken about loads and loads of times. And actually, most people listening to this are probably say, "Oh well, we know that there's these things there," but as kids, kids don't actually pick up on this. And actually, when you've got a cast member who's leading the way and explaining certain elements of it, I actually felt it meant that certainly from our perspective, every time we go into Magic Kingdom after that, there was a little bit of extra knowledge that the children had that stayed with them forever. And I'll never forget that, because I know we'll talk about Keys to the Kingdom, but when I did Keys to the Kingdom, I have not felt inclined to talk about it because I don't want to spoil the bits that kids aren't allowed to see. And you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's one of those tours that it was totally family friendly. It was there for the kids. We did another tour, well, without adults, and how they managed to do it. It was like a pirate adventure one in Epcot in the days before
Right, okay.
World Showcase opened, at midday or something, and they did like a kids tour, and they went round the lagoon, and they stopped off in different things on a boat with no adults and two cast members. So I don't think someone did the health and safety.
You wouldn't be allowed to do that,
no? I honestly don't.
What's the risk assessment for that one?
I don't think they would allow them to do it now, and that shows just how quickly that's kind of moved on as well. You know, they had an absolutely fantastic time doing that, and that was during the time where the Segway tours were allowed around Epcot as well.
Oh,
so
they were great.
Just amazing, and time moves on. You know, I'm big enough and realistic enough to know that it does move on, but in the space of about 10 years, we've seen things change, but we've seen things actually probably change for the better as well. Because I don't think many families would put two kids on a boat and say "see you later," and then we went.
I don't know what stage of the holiday you're at.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Just need a break for a few hours.
We blagged away in for a swim at the Yacht and Beach Club. And like now, you'd never even get in. You never get past them on the gate because you haven't got a certain band and all that. And it's like we just said, look, kids are doing the tour. Can we go for a swim? Oh yeah, in you come. We had. Oh yeah.
How times have changed.
Absolutely, we loved it. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, that.
You mentioned segways, and I was going to say that this isn't a segue to another tour, but there is another tour which is on a Segway at Fort Wilderness.
Yeah,
and that's something that's always been on our list, but I know that
it hasn't been on my list.
It's been
fall off.
Ben,
it's been on my list.
Well, fine.
Ben, it's not
do that. I'll go do the archery.
It's always.
I'll come with you, Ben. Simon doesn't want to do it either.
I was going to say it's safe.
You and Simon can go and get a drink then.
I was going to say it's safer than the archery.
Not for me. For other people, maybe, but not for me.
But it's one of those things. There's also tours at resorts. It's not just specific in the park.
Absolutely, yeah.
There are so many different options, and we're not going to cover them all tonight because we'll be here till 2 a.m. But and also, there's a lot of them that, like we've said, Disney still haven't brought back. So like the Family Magic Tour, also I think Mastered into Magic. And I think, Robin, you also mentioned, was it you also had Fantasy Tour that you've done before? Is there a particular one that that's been your favourite of what you've done?
That's really tough. I think, given I like a little bit of Disney history, I think the Mastered into Magic Kingdom Tour probably has the edge. However, when the Yuletide Fantasy Tour was around, it was obviously Yuletide, it was Christmas, and we got to go inside the big Christmas warehouse and see where they keep all the baubles, like colour coordinated, size coordinated.
Wow.
It was like heaven.
It was.
It does.
That's what your house is like.
It kind of.
Definitely not ours. No.
It was, for that side, it was really interesting. However, would I do the tour again? Probably not. They gave some information that wasn't correct about different countries and how they celebrated Christmas. They told us Boxing Day was about giving postmen the day off because of delivering boxes, and I was sat on the coach going, "Is that right?"
Yeah.
That's right. So probably wouldn't do that one again. Though I think, Ben, I have uploaded a photo of the warehouse with all the baubles. If you want to share it.
Oh, wow!
Given a little pin as well. So
amazing.
I can't remember if we were allowed to take photos.
You did.
You did.
I did take a photo. We did have to wear the protective goggles anytime we were going inside the warehouses.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very attractive.
I think
Cool.
there's another tour that hasn't come back that actually Dan did in 2019, which was the Undiscovered Epcot tour, which obviously it now can't happen because half of it's been demolished. But he was lucky enough to go into the special lounges, the one in Spaceship Earth, the one above the seas, there's another one I can't remember. And he got to go into all sorts of different areas in Epcot, in what was Future World, and got some. I'll see if I can find some photos to put in the Waffler's Arms. He got some great photos looking out over Fountain of Nations before it was destroyed, and the glass piano that's sitting in one of them, which is very cool. And that again, it was a half-day tour, and he had a great time. He got to see some areas that you definitely wouldn't see otherwise. So yeah, I think there are some tours that haven't come back, may never come back, but that's great because I'm sure they'll bring in some new ones.
Yeah, I think they're missing a trick at the minute. With all the construction in Epcot, wouldn't it be nice to have like a preview? Disney can make money out of this.
Construction,
$200.
Yellow hard hat on.
$200. There you go.
Yeah,
you get to walk around the building.
I can imagine everyone on social media, every sort of Disney influencer going, "I'm going on that," just so I can get the scoop on the latest.
The hard hat tour.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a high vis as
part
well.
to part, depending on what what's being constructed.
That'd be great.
At the time.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So, I think sticking in Epcot, a lot of the tours can be quite cheap. Yeah. And when I say cheap, we've all done Living with the Land. I know some of us on here like it more than others, but Behind the Seats is one of those tours that is only $35 each. And I think it can just give you a completely different perspective.
Yeah. And
it's just nice to be part of an attraction, part of a ride. You see it all happening and everything about it. Has anyone here done Behind the Seats?
We have.
We've done it too.
One of the nice things, Ben, I think you're just alluding to it there, though, you actually feel as if you're on stage because you're with the cast member and you've still got the ride going past you, and it's that bit where you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. We haven't done any tours at Walt Disney World, but we have done one in Paris. And you don't look at the ride or the park the same way ever again. You're right. No.
My question would be with Behind the Seats, how close and personal do you get to the wasps?
You don't see any of them, to be honest with you, Joe. I didn't notice. So we did it probably the same trip actually as we did the Family Magic Tour. Actually, it was me and my dad and Morgan did the tour together. And Morgan, to be fair, Morgan didn't enjoy it that much, but he was having a bit of a moment that day. Whereas Dan and Millie did it in October, just gone. And Millie absolutely, so Mills is a total eco warrior. And she was totally enthralled by all the different growing techniques. She got a handout to take back to her teacher at school about hydroponic growing because her class teacher is the guy who runs the greenhouses and they grow vegetables for the summer and stuff like that. So she took this handout back to her teacher to say, look what we could do, you know. And she was talking about it for hours. She thought it was incredible. She got to like feed the fish in the fish farm, and because she's like the only child on the tour, she got to do all the stuff, which made it even cooler for her. You know, anything where she's the centre of attention, she loves. So she
like mother, like daughter, isn't it?
Mother like. I was going to say, I wonder where she gets that from.
Morgan. She gets it from Morgan. But she, I think, when you look at things like actually when you're on stage and the fact that there are people going past, and I remember going on the ride and going, well, what are those people doing? Why are they stood there by that tree? How do I get over there? And actually, this is how you do it. And do you know what? It's educational. It is true edutainment in terms of it's educational. There's a little bit of that cool thing about the fact that you're on stage, but you're not. And I think it's a really positive message that they give as well in terms of how they grow the vegetables, and the fruit, and what they're using them for in Walt Disney World. And to really, if you've got kids who are between, I would say, 8 and 11, it's genius because it just fires them up for thinking about things in a different way. Totally recommend it.
I think as well.
We paid for our in-laws to do it, and we went on the ride and took pictures of them stood.
Oh, even better.
That's brilliant.
I think one of the things that it does do,
but it is 2 hours, about 2 hours, and it is walking. Yeah. It's all standing and walking.
Yeah. But what it does do, though, is actually it remains true to that original premise of what Epcot was meant to always be about.
Yes.
And I that's the bit that really gets me. It really sort of hits home, and it's one of those things that they've not, strangely enough, even with the paycheck years, I don't think they've nickel and dimed it as much as they possibly can, because actually they've made it accessible at a price that even for a family of 4, you can all go and you can all enjoy it, and it's not prohibitive on a cost front. It's just a case of knowing that the tour is there, and that to me is so important that people actually recognise. This is what Epcot was meant to be about.
You could pay for a family of 4 to do behind the scenes for the cost of 1 after hours.
I think one dinner. You know, if you're going to go for a character dining at Garden Grill, it will be cheaper to do behind the scenes tour
and fine,
and probably still have lunch at Sunshine Seasons as well.
So at the time of recording, it's $35 per person
plus tax.
I think it's good value. It's good value.
But if you've got annual pass, DVC,
you get discount on that, and I think it's an extremely well priced option to do something different. And that's the thing, that these tours they're not instead of anything, and they're probably not for first time visitors either. These are tours just to give that little extra something that you wouldn't normally do, and they're like a little extra bonus. They're your Brucey bonus on your trip. They're actually, how am I going to spend that day? I've been here for 2 weeks and I want to do something different in the middle of it. Well, that's an option. And it's not going to be for everyone. Not everyone would want to do it. But I think, for a very well-priced option, a couple of hours out of your day in Epcot before, you go around the world. Lovely.
Yeah.
And it's a definitely better option than stealing cucumbers from the attraction.
Yes.
To be fair, it's probably a lot easier to steal the cucumbers on the bag than the seat.
You're not allowed. You're not even allowed on the sand. You know, the sand that everything's great. You're not allowed to touch the sand.
And neither would you, because actually you're part of.
They explain why.
It's really strange how you become really protective of the whole thing that goes on. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. So true.
So where are we going next? I actually think on some of these tours, we've talked about cost. We've talked about, I think for anyone listening and watching this, go and have a look at the Walt Disney World website, because there's something out there for absolutely everyone. From cost, from it.
Because there's even tours when you can have someone take you around, you're a group of 6, and you can spend hours going around the park on sort of doing attractions. So it depends. You can have tailored tours, and some of the ones that we mentioned tonight are from like Master into Magic, Keys to the Kingdom, just sort of probably more for everyone else, probably slightly more in budget, I would say. And some of them, I think Keys to the Kingdom, especially when you look at the cost that you get per hour.
I think Keys,
because it's a 5-hour tour,
at least 5 hours,
and it's $99. No, it's
$115.
$114
plus
$114
tax. And actually,
but you do get lunch.
That's what I was saying. Let's talk Keys.
You
do still get lunch. Let's talk Keys to the Kingdom.
lunch.
So who's
Keys to the Kingdom.
who's done Keys to the Kingdom? I've done it.
Yes.
Look, you can see who the tour people are. So I've done it.
Hopefully, next time we talk tours,
we have 2
got
on
our list
for
Cool.
June.
So I've done Keys to the Kingdom twice, which someone might say is unnecessary. 10 years apart. So I first did it in like 20. I'm trying to think, because we did it on the my brother's first wedding anniversary. So I'm trying to think back how far ago that was. And then I did it again in December last year when I was there. And I think one of the things with all of these tours where you've got a guide who's taking you around is dependent on who your tour guide is, you are going to get a different experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I've done, just like Peter and Gill, I've done the version of Keys to the Kingdom, which is the one in Disneyland Paris. So it's the Disneyland Paris, the Disneyland tour. I've done that twice as well and got a completely different experience as well. So I think even if you've done it before, actually, I saw different things in December that I'd seen 10 years ago. I had different stories. I had different information. I learned lots of different things. And because it was a different time of day as well, I got to see different things in the backstage area as well. And I think if we're going to talk Keys to the Kingdom, let's just be aware that if you've got small people listening, we'll try and keep it as child friendly as possible. But there is backstage content. Just saying, full disclosure. Ben, we need your warning thing. What's your warning sign?
It used to be a spoiler warning. Spoiler
alert. What did you guys think of Keys to the Kingdom?
It's one like you, Claire. We've done it. We did it probably 10 years, if not 11 years ago. So it's coming round to the point where we're probably going to start thinking about adding it back into the plans. Because it's been that long. We really enjoyed it. It was the first tour we ever did.
Same here.
We got our little key pins. You get a keepsake pin.
Mine are up there somewhere.
I think we had lunch in Columbia Harbour House.
That's changed, sadly. It's now Pecos Bills now.
It's okay. Yeah,
it was fine.
Oh no,
it was fine.
Oh, it's not my favourite.
Yeah,
but it's fine. It's worth the tour. We really enjoyed it. I enjoyed going behind the scenes, seeing some of the things that you think, "Oh, that's so cheeky," like pumping the smell out of the bakery and the popcorn. Spoiler: it's not real. The smell. It comes from a cow. We didn't know that before we did it, so we were shocked we could do something like that. But we really, really enjoyed it. And one thing I'll never forget, when the parades start coming now, I always look up and I watch all the upstairs windows open and the speakers come out.
The speakers come out, the lights pop up.
Yeah.
You know when it's coming.
My mind was blown at that moment.
You know when it's coming. And do you know how many people I pointed that out to? And there are things that you learn.
Me too.
There are things you learn on Keys to the Kingdom that it's perfectly okay to talk about. And that's one of those things that actually it's the parade's on its way down your street into your area because the lights come up on the spikes and then the windows open and the speakers are there and everything like that. There are things you can't talk about, but it's
and actually that's the best. That's the best thing. And I'm not even going to mention that, but I know that I've got. Certainly, when I did the tour, that my lads were too young, and they're now at an age where both of them can do it, and that is top of the list. And it'll cost me, but I think
Yeah.
It'd be worth it.
100%. And it's just like, I have to laugh because actually we went, when we went, we nearly didn't, I nearly missed a tour because we got snowed out of Washington on the way. And so when we arrived on first morning, which was meant to be the second morning, but first morning, walked into Magic Kingdom, get early access, went to Town Hall, and the cast member who was, strange enough, leading the tour that I was on, turns around and he just says, and it was like National Lampoon moment. He says, "Oh, sorry, tours are all cancelled today." I just turned around and said, "Look, sorry, mate. I spent over 24 hours, got snowed out of Washington, went to Chicago. I'm now here. The tour is happening.
Run the tour."
Yeah, and it was just like, it was that little moment where you just think, no, that just wasn't, it just didn't cut it with me. And he kind of gave me a little bit of space all the way around the tour, but he was fantastic. He thought he was very funny. I didn't particularly think he was hilarious. But
I think he might have been the same guy doing my tour in December who thought he was hysterical. I did not find him hysterical, but I did find some of his information very interesting. And I had two, as I say, I had two really different experiences because the first time I did it, the girl who did the tour, it was the first time she'd ever done the tour, and there was three of her cast member friends on the tour supporting her, obviously in civvies, and we didn't know they were cast members until the end, where they all gave her a hug. And it was great, actually, and she did brilliantly.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He was giving was really great, and we did have a interesting.
I think that's the biggest thing about Keys to the Kingdom, Claire, and it is the whole fact that once you've actually done the tour, irrespective of how many books you read about looking at windows or looking at different parts of any of the lands, once you've done the actual tour and actually seen it in person, it changes your whole perspective of Magic Kingdom, and to the extent that you have to do it again because there's bits of it you never remember.
Yeah,
things change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you get to ride some attractions as well. So we got to ride Jungle Cruise, but it was a very different experience
because you actually get the headphones into your ears, so
you wear your headset.
So rather than getting the usual spiel from the cast member, you're actually having everything explained to you bit by bit, and you're just like, "Oh, that is why you. That's why it's so different." I did I did Haunted Mansion as well.
Yeah, we did Haunted Mansion as well.
Oh wow!
And you bypass the queue, so you get to go in Haunted Mansion. If you've not done the queue bypass experience, you get to go in the servants' quarters. It's very cool.
Oh wow!
So there are things that you get to experience on that tour that you probably wouldn't do otherwise. And I still think that at $114 plus tax or whatever it is exceptionally good value. It is 5 hours, and be prepared for 5 hours of walking. It's not 5 hours of sitting down and chatting. It is. There are small breaks built in for loo breaks and grab some water and stuff, but it is like a slog around the park.
It's good though.
There's no slacking allowed. You've got to keep up.
And maybe it's one of those things. It's choosing the time that you have it. Especially depends what time of the year you go. So it depends on what the weather's like and how that could. Because we're going in June, so we're expecting it to be hot. So we're trying to sort of work out. Okay, do it early, be in there, and
take a parasol is my advice, because there is a lot of walking around in the sun. We did it and it was hot, and I took an umbrella just to help.
Is it largely on the flats?
Well, it's Magic Kingdom.
Magic Kingdom.
So
yes, Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
handy hints and tips.
And I know why it was $99 was stuck in my mind, because that's how much it costs if you've got DVC or annual pass holder. So I've been pricing it up recently.
No,
So, what about tours in Animal Kingdom?
I was going to say there's a couple of I would call budget-friendly tours in Animal Kingdom.
Very budget-friendly.
I think there's definitely one that both Claire and I have done.
Yay!
Caring for Giants.
Caring for Giants.
So I did a bit of a tour fest in December. So I did this in December when I was there on my own. And because I was on my reasoning for doing this in December was I wanted to check it out because it is a tour that's suitable for children 8 and up or 7 and up. I can't remember. And I wanted to check it out for this summer coming when we go as a family. We're not actually going to Animal Kingdom when we're there just now at the time of listening, which is a bit weird. So, but in summer when we're there, I know that Millie would quite enjoy doing it. So I wanted to check out how suitable it was. What did it feel like? How, it's only 60 minutes. So I went and did it on my own when I was there in December, and I had a great time. Our cast member Logan was epic. He was brilliant. I remember him, and I gave a cast compliment the minute I got off the tour.
We didn't quite have the same experience.
Oh,
sadly. So when it was the 25th anniversary of Animal Kingdom, is that right? Was it 25th?
20th.
I feel like it was 25th. Oh, maybe it was the 20th.
20th.
It's the 25th this year.
Oh, okay. So it must have been the 20th.
That's where you're getting it from.
Yeah. So they did a special tour for the month of April, and Caring for Giants was part of it and part of something else. So you went behind the scenes and sort of saw all the conservation efforts. We really enjoyed that part, and then you just later on the day they said, "What time do you want to book on for the Caring for Giants?" And I think our tour guide was. I think it's one of those things that it makes or breaks it. Ours was okay, and I think I was a bit disappointed that we weren't closer. I wanted to be almost touching those elephants, but you were not that close. We were still quite far away, but I found it really informative, and I did enjoy it. It just wasn't. It wasn't, and I definitely feel from everyone I talked to, we had an unusual experience because everyone I speak to thinks it was just amazing. So I would do it again just to have a different experience, because I think, especially as it's such a decent price. If you have any sort of care about animals and elephants especially, then I think you'll enjoy it.
That's such a shame that you had. I mean, I think one of the things is the tour is backstage, so be prepared for not on stage theming, which is cool, but kids might find a bit strange, and it is one of the tours that allows children to go backstage. As I said at the beginning, it's not backstage as in you're going to see anything that you wouldn't want small eyes to see. You're going to see some fields, some buildings that they keep stuff in, and some dirt, basically, is what you're going to see.
Is it a bit like the series on, was it the Magic Cannibals on?
It is exactly. You're not going to see anything different to that. And I think I have to agree with you, Robin. I thought we would be closer than we were. Yeah. However, we had a really interesting experience. So when we got out so you go round the back of the paddocks within the safari when you're on the safari, the Kilimanjaro safari, and you see the elephants in the second paddock, not there's like the lone bull elephant on his own. And you go around the corner through the bit where the tusks have cut out the mud, and you see the big elephant paddock. You go to the other side of that, behind it, and they park up, and you go up a ramp, and you can go and stand at the edge of that. And it's really interesting because they point out and they talk about how they control the animals and how they educate them and how they use different things. They call the elephants by name, which I think is incredible. It's like calling your dog or your cat. They actually use the elephants' own names to call them into the barns at night and things like that. So you do learn a lot of information in terms of how they care for them, as the tour would suggest, and how they maintain them. They talk a lot about the zoological program that Animal Kingdom is part of, and conservation, and all of those things, which is really, really informative. We also had one of the keepers, that's not what they call it, I can't remember what word they use, for the elephants, who they have them on rotation out there all the time the safari's running. They have somebody stood out the back there watching, making sure everything's okay. So he was there and could give us another insight into what was going on. And then actually Logan, our tour guide, was brilliant. So he had started on the Disney College program. He was driving our little bus, and when we were in the bus, he was happy to answer any questions about Disney at all. Wow. And he had started life being friends with a character. And he was happy to chat about any of that because he works for the Disney Animal Kingdom veterinary side of things, if you want to put it like that, rather than the performance side. So he can talk about anything he wants. Yeah. So he was brilliant and could answer all sorts of questions that were thrown at him. So, we had a really great hour that whizzed by, and was definitely worth $35. But I don't know how typical that was of that particular tour.
I think the part where you're out, we had similar experience. They talked to us a lot about the conservation and about all the names and who was who and how they knew, like how they could tell them apart, which was really interesting about looking after them. We didn't have the same experience as with Logan, sadly. Our tour guides. Don't really remember.
See, I remember his name, which for me tells me he was Eric. And
there you go. Ask for Logan.
he was just so engaging, but that probably goes back to his previous roles and how he developed. And he was talking about how he'd grown through the company and experienced different things and been able to move through the company, which was really interesting.
Was it a really small group?
8 or 10 people.
Okay.
I think ours was a similar size.
Huge. And they take you out. They take you out the back and put you in a little minibus and take you round to the where you have to stand. So you get that time. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was about 10 of us. It was cool, and you had lots of time to ask questions, loads of time. So anything at all that you want to know about elephants, their behaviour, how they look after them, how they breed them, how they exchange them with other zoos, or safari parks, or however you want to call it, and how they manage the safari ride and the barriers that they utilise and the way that they control the animals' behaviours and their movement and all of that stuff. All of that is up for discussion, which is it's intriguing and interesting.
I wonder how that compares with the up close with rhinos tour.
See, I'd love to do that.
Because that sounds like you're up close with rhinos, which sounds closer than you were with elephants.
In touching distance, Robin. You want to?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. don't know how fancy that.
Oh, I do. Rhinos are epic.
Not sure. Don't know. Maybe.
We spent a lot of the weekend watching Magic of Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
On Disney Plus, so it's like all the tours at Animal Kingdom.
There's also that the Wild Africa Trek as well, which is on the expensive side of the spectrum as well, but it was at $199 per person plus tax on top of it. But
for what you get, it is a 3-hour tour. But how close you get to that lovely rope bridge?
Yeah. I think you get some food with that one as well.
You do. Yes.
Lunch on the savannah and your own private photographer as well.
Yes. So the cast members have got sort of third-class photographers following you around. So everywhere you are, you're having your own sort of experience.
I actually
that's on your list, isn't it, Ben?
Definitely. It is.
Becca, she managed to persuade me to do it.
On your list, Becca.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I've always been a little bit weary because of the rope bridge and the heights.
That's the thing that's
stopped
me.
You are
strapped
to the top.
You are strapped in. Yeah. You've got all the harnesses.
I just don't fancy the indignity of having the harness put on, quite frankly. That's the thing. I just like literally have these dreams of like getting there and they go, no, we don't have a harness that'll fit you. No.
No way.
Well, I believe there is a weight limit to the harness.
There is.
The harness or the rope bridge?
The harness.
That's not scary at all.
It's like we're not sure. The scales are broken today, but you're gonna go.
You're all gonna go on
together.
If you all go at the same time, it'll be fine. Just run.
Yeah.
Just
who gets across, and we'll pick up the pieces afterwards.
We will try and film this experience when we're out there as well, because it's probably the only time.
Are you doing it in June?
Yeah, we're doing.
That's
it
the
in June.
plan.
Exciting. I'll be interested to see what you think. It was something that we had booked pre-pandemic, but one that got away. So we need to get it booked in again. Just need to find the time.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing when you plan your trips to Florida. For us, most of them are always 2 weeks. But it always goes by so quickly once you planned your days in the park. It's like, well, where do I take you from? Where do I do it? But also, as we've been every year for the past few years, it's like, okay, well, we don't want every year to become the same as like a routine. So all of these tours do give that added benefit of like, okay, well, actually, we've done Magic Kingdom, but we've never done Keys to the Kingdom. So let's do Magic Kingdom from a different perspective. And there's so much you can choose to spend as little or as much as you want, but I think there's a tour on Disney's website for anyone and everyone. I just hope, like we said at the beginning, that they'd bring back some more of the family, just like that the family magic tour.
But there's also experiences that are like tours that are, or self-guided things that perhaps you don't realise, and maybe that's a conversation for another show. I'm thinking like the kayaking at Fort Wilderness. Who knew that you can go and you can hire a kayak and go around?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
I didn't know
the safari bikes. There's so much different.
So
exploring
maybe that's something that we talk about in a future show. Is all those types of things that you can access that you might not even realise are there if you just had enough of the onslaught of noise and sound and smell and all of the stuff that happens in the parks on a day-to-day, and you want to go and do something different. There's bass fishing. Let's talk to Carlos about the bass fishing. There's all sorts of things you can do. You can hire a pontoon boat. Let's put it in a future show so that people have got some information about it.
So also there's one tour that hasn't returned yet, which hopefully
I know where you're going with this.
Hopefully is going to be very soon coming back to us, and that's the one where you're actually able to go and see the steam trains as well in the sheds. Because
now the train is back. I'm so hoping.
And that is, again, for me, it's the one where I've waited all these years for my children to be of an age where you can go and do it. It is an early start in the morning, but I tell you what, I think anybody I've ever spoken to who's done it, it is just one of those things that is just sheer magnificence of machinery, and then also the fact that you're getting to see such an integral part of Magic Kingdom, and that's the one for me.
Yeah, and integral
Me
part of
too.
Walk
I'll be there.
as well. You know, this is where it all started with a train in his back garden. So for me, that's like the absolutely perfect way to celebrate Disney World is with a tour on a steam train and learn how they maintain them and stuff. It's just,
That'd be amazing.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I have a question. What tours would we like to see happen?
Oh, if we
If we were thinking about new tours,
tour.
You see, I think it would be, and Gill's the same. I think it would be a good idea to have a trip around, what's it called, the cruise in Star Wars.
Yes, the
Atlantis Star Cruiser.
The really expensive Star Cruiser, because I think that eventually they're going to run out of millionaires and people who
already have
to do that.
I honestly think it'll be rethemed and won't be a Star Wars hotel.
To the outlets.
I think if they
buy your stay on the Star Cruiser at the outlets.
Yeah. But you see, I think if they said, okay, once a month we'll run a tour, we'll run a full tour.
It's docked at Batuu.
The rest of the time it's docked at Batuu, and you can pay so many dollars for an hour's tour around it. And you go around and you have a little souvenir and you see everything.
I think
in 50% discount.
In 10 years' time, yes. That's not going to happen yet. I think one of the tours that have... Go on.
Or the other thing that they could offer is a meal. So like a dinner show. So you could pay so much to just go for dinner, and during your dinner...
Like medieval times, but with lightsabers.
I just think people would like to. I know it's happened recently, but talking of Star Wars, I think just someone would like to meet Mando and Grogu. It's just an at dinner.
Mando and Grogu, the poor people were swamped.
True.
Poor Mando and Grogu were swamped with people.
Yeah. I know that one of the tours that hasn't come back is the Epcot World Showcase food tour, because there used to be one that is had food included. Obviously, when you went to eat, I think you went to 9 of the 11 countries. You didn't go to all of them.
Oh, wow.
And
one that I would do for sure. Yeah,
different small plates of food from each, and they used to talk about the country and the architecture, and then you had something to eat in each of them. And I think that's a really great idea, is to tap into the each of those. I'd love to do a tour which is like 10 hours long, where they take you through all the theming of the backgrounds of those pavilions and how they're created and why they've got certain things there. And, like the Germany pavilion, all the different areas of Germany represented within just that little square, and talk about all those different. And I know you can read about it, and yes, you can take a friend who'll tell you all that stuff, I'm sure. But actually, I think that would be such a great tour if they did sort of maybe 9 hours, and it's like 40 minutes in each pavilion, and you got time to experience and point out all the different things. That'd be amazing.
Is that we could recommend that one to Sammy?
I think didn't Sammy do that one with Jason and Sam?
Yes.
Didn't they take her around and
look
at this? This is a cuckoo clock. Look at this.
See, I've thought of a good tour that I'd like to, and it'll probably link into a future episode. And it's following a photo pass photographer around different areas of the parks, so you get it from a different perspective.
So you get
you get all the good
tour.
views as well.
So you get taught where to take the best pictures from. That'd be great.
So what you mean? You want the Instagrammer's guide to Disney?
That's it. That's
Hold
such
on
a good
minute.
idea.
Where all the Instagram walls are. Taking a perfect picture of fireworks.
In the mid-April show.
We do.
We've done it.
You're right,
We're
Joe.
doing it,
Yeah.
Goodness, we've actually got a show which actually guides you through doing all those things of basically being like a photo pass photographer, only better, I hasten to add. Because I've had some really poor experiences with some photographers, but that's for another show. But But yeah, how to take photos and how to get the best photos on your holiday. That sounds a perfect show, Ben. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mark your calendars
Excellent.
for 15th of April.
Oh, there we go. So I have a tour that technically it is a tour that was retired. So it's not really like I've come up. I can't claim that I've come up with it. It was a tour that was only offered you had to be staying in Animal Kingdom. Years ago, it was only like 1 day a week. And years ago, it was only offered to concierge level guests. But then they opened it up to DVC guests as well. And it was a sunrise safari.
Yeah.
So they picked you up at 6 a.m. It was crazy early. And there was 2 buses worth of, or like the safari buses worth of people. And you went round the safari and you took well over an hour. And they talked about how it actually ran. They talked about how they fed the animals, how they cared for them, what the noises you would hear the noises they were called to go in and out. You took so long, way longer. There was no sort of story about how it was pretended to look. It was how they actually did it. And then at the end, you got breakfast at Restaurantosaurus. Was it? No, actually, no. It was Pete Safari. You got breakfast in. But as an animal lover, it was so interesting. Even down to we learned at the time that the male and female lions that were getting very friendly at that time in the morning together.
It's cold. It's cold at that time of day, Robin.
Yeah.
They were keeping warm.
Stay close and stay warm.
Yes.
There we go. We didn't have to. Couldn't get too excited about any baby lions coming soon because they were too closely related. So the female was on birth control. Like things like that you would never know.
No.
You would never know.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was really, really interesting. So I'd love to see. That was retired long before COVID, though. Sadly,
yeah.
So interesting, so interesting. Though there is another tour run from Animal Kingdom.
There is supposed to be one in the evening, or there was one in the evening.
There was
one at Animal Kingdom Lodge, which was the sunset.
Yes,
safari.
sorry, Animal Kingdom Lodge. Yes,
you got dinner with that one.
Yeah, the sunset.
Apparently, it wasn't brilliant. In the even with the night vision goggles that they supplied, you couldn't see the animals very well.
Yeah. That's what I read too. So,
but I think there are other experiences that don't qualify as a tour that's still there. So there is other things in different resorts and different parks that we could pick up in another show.
There's the Mickey Hunt at Wilderness Lodge.
Yeah, and wine tasting.
Sorry, did you just say there's a hunt at Wilderness Lodge?
Mickey Hunt.
Mickey Hunt.
Sorry.
Hidden Mickey.
I missed
Mickey Hunt.
I missed the hidden Mickey bit. I just heard hunt, and I was thinking that seems not very Disney.
More bison burgers, anyone?
Right?
Although I can't remember which trip it was, but I finally found the hidden Mickey on the chimney breast.
The fire.
On the fire. But not sure I can find it next
Mickey
time.
on the fire.
Mickey on the fire on the hunt. This is all very wrong.
Oh dear, it's getting worse. Yes. What about a food tour of Disney Springs?
Oh, that would be good. I mean, I'm down for any food tour. You say food, I'm there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, we this is something that we like to do when we go to various cities. Is we go on food tours, and you get taken to different places by your group leader and fed different things in different places. So I'm always up for that. Yeah,
I think that's okay, but I would rather choose my own.
I'm picky.
So I'd
like to know what I get.
So maybe like a bespoke tour around that would be option. Or I know we like a dessert tour around Disney Springs because there's lots of cool places to get cake and things like. I'm a fan of a wet sauce pretzel, so there's all sorts of things that you can try. So maybe that would be an option. I don't know. I think there's so many different things you could curate, like a
There are
watercraft.
so many.
A watercraft
I think
tour.
we'll-
That
Yeah.
would be super cool. Where you
Oh.
get to do a ferry, and then you get to do a friendship boat, and then you get to do a pontoon, a pedalo.
kayak,
I don't know
swim.
what. Yeah, you know, you can do it all. It'd be super cool.
An amphicar.
Yeah.
An amphicar.
Yeah. Well, that would be
Yes.
You could do
Yes.
all the
Desperate to
waterways.
do that.
You could do like 3
Yeah.
or 4 hours just going
Yeah.
down the waterways and looking at the the ecology and the wildlife, and learning about how to. I'd love to learn how they pilot the
Yeah.
ferries and stuff.
Mm.
There's so many
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
We've shared our ideas. Now I think we should hand it over to everyone listening.
Yes,
and watching.
absolutely.
Yes.
So what we'll do, today's 1st of April, so we'll put a post in the Wafflers Arms, which is our Facebook community. You can find the link on our website, which is gbmickeywaffle.com. And what we'll do is we'd like to just see all of your ideas for what tours or other stuff you'd like to see at Walt Disney World. But let's not limit it just to Walt Disney World. Let's do any Disney park. Because I know Disneyland has tours, Disneyland Paris. So if there's something
That'd be
particular, I think there's could be some interesting ideas coming from
Can I also mention as well, for anyone listening or watching, that if you've got more money than sense, there is the special Create Your Disney Dream Day private VIP
Yes, there
tour,
is.
Oh yeah.
which ranges from $450 to $900 per hour, depending on the season, right? And you still have to have a park ticket, just so that we've catered for the whole range of people who listen to the show.
Wow.
Do you think you need to book a park reservation?
Yes.
You need a park ticket.
Ticket.
Yeah.
You need to, I don't know if you'd need a
You're going to
reservation.
get through the turnstiles at the beginning of the day, haven't you? So you will need
Imagine
it.
if you've spent that amount of money and you've gone, I've got my ticket. Park reservation? No.
No, if you get and you ping your magic band and it goes, nope, you won't get in. It's
I don't know. I'm pretty sure the tour guide meets you at your hotel.
oh really?
Yeah,
So that's
no,
what
no. No, I'm sure my friend Adam gets a VIP tour every year on his birthday.
Does he? Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure they meet them at their hotel with the big like
The words nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more spring to mind.
John, when you mentioned more money than sense, I thought you were about to start that we have a Patreon.
I got a week's ban on Waffles Wednesday when I went down that route before. I'm not even going to mention it.
No, John, that's because you mentioned OnlyFans.
Yes.
Oh my life.
We used to follow a couple who did one of these tours, and
I didn't know
they did get met by a car at the at the gate, and they
I
got
know you were watching.
taken around the parks, and they could get on whatever ride they wanted, whenever they wanted.
Yeah.
They'd
they
have
didn't
food
go
wherever
through
they
the
wanted, whenever they
turnstiles
wanted.
They all went. They all
If you
came in
could-
the back door.
Yep. If you could pay for it, Disney will let you have practically what you want.
Yeah.
Right, whenever you want.
Now there you go. What about the Cinderella Castle Suite tour?
Well done, Jill. Cinderella Castle Suite tour, yeah.
Oh my life.
My cheek.
I'm so glad we're not live.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you for listening to the Great British Mickey Waffle. We would really love to hear from you, and you can find us at GB Mickey Waffle on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Or you can email us at waffleon@gbmickeywaffle.com. There are many ways that you can support us, and the easiest way is to leave us a rating and a review on your podcast app. And why don't you share the show with your friends too? Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe for even more waffle. Now, back to the show.
Apologies to anyone who might now be spending more on their next trip booking one of these exclusive tours. So there's just one thing left to say.
Waffle on!
Waffle on.
Waffle on!
Waffle on!